with Beard! Hey, podcast kittens, it's Cathy Cat and...
Ladybeard coming at you with another lip-smacking installment of Cat with Beard! We have the world's specialist ever guest in the studio today.
We do?
This guest is so special.
Super special.
The word special is not even special enough to describe this special guest.
Wow.
It's like a special guest.
Ooh.
It means double special.
Who's our special guest?
Today's guest is the one, the only, the legendary Cathy Cat.
Oh, it's me!
Yay! Cathy Cat's
Thank
very
you.
own episode. We went, in a previous episode, we deep dived into the history of Ladybeard.
I love that episode.
Today it is Cathy Cat's turn. We are going
my deep dive episode.
deep on Cathy Cat, on the woman behind the whiskers.
Yes.
Because you're a cat. I'm not saying you have a beard. Because you're a cat. That's why.
The whiskers, exactly. The cat.
Exactly. The cat. The Cathy
Thank
to the
you.
cat. So.
Thank you for having me on the show.
My pleasure.
I always
Welcome to
wanted to
Cat
be
with
on the
Beard.
show. I love this podcast.
Oh,
it's my
God bless
favorite podcast in the entire world.
Well, this is going to work out very well then.
Exactly.
I have a co-host called Cathy Cat. You might have heard of her.
Ah, totally.
She's a
Sometimes.
good woman.
Okay.
All right, so Cathy Cat,
Yes.
tell people from whence you emerged.
From when I emerged. So this is like the origin story of Cathy
Origin
Cat.
story of Cathy Cat. You are from whereabouts?
Munich, Germany.
Germany. Excellent. From München. Excellent. And so you were born and raised in München.
Munich. Yup.
Munich, we say Munich, not München. Sorry.
Munich. Yeah, very good.
Sorry. Okay, so you're
Very
born
good.
and raised in Munich, Germany. Now what? Tell me about young Cathy Cat. As a child, what was Cathy Cat into?
Right. Starting from the back of it, I've never been longer than 2 years in the same location
What?
until after school. So here, this is where it starts. So my parents split very early. I was in kindergarten.
Oh, sorry to hear that. I didn't
Which
know that.
means I went to about 4 different kindergartens.
Oh, no,
So,
really?
yeah, first 4 different kindergartens. My mom then moved for a time out of Munich into the Black Forest area where we lived with my nan for a while.
Wow.
So, and then the story continues. So I did a little list of this. 3 years elementary school. I pretty much checked off every type of school that Germany has in different ways. So number 1, 3 years dormitory school, which means from the age of 6, 7, and 8, I would not be able to go home see my parents because my mom was doing night shifts.
What?
Yes, so
What, at age 6, you can't see your mum?
yes, I was
What?
we were all very lonely, and I think the first year we all cried ourselves to sleep because we were missing our mommies and daddies so much.
Did you have nuns or something?
No nuns. That comes later. There's
my
some nuns coming up.
This is Ladybeard had no idea that this happened. Hang on,
Yeah.
just one second. So your parents get divorced when you were like 3,
Yes.
and they're
The typical
okay.
kind of age, I think, when the parents are kind of like, if they're not pulling through, they're not pulling through.
But
kind
did
of
then they go to separate places? Or were they both in Munich?
Dad stayed in Munich and my mom went to the Black Forest. So my
Forest.
nan could look after me when she was doing night shifts. Because as a nurse in a hospital,
Oh,
she
she's
had
a
to do...
nurse.
Exactly. That's the... Sorry, I
And so,
forgot to
how
mention
far is the Black Forest from Munich?
It was quite a while. It was a couple of hours by car.
Okay, so it's not the other side of the country.
No,
but it's
not the other
definitely
side of
not
the
close
country,
by.
but quite far away.
Wow,
So,
okay. All right.
And then for first, second, third year, elementary school was dormitory. So that was really hard. I missed my mom so much. And, as kids, like a week feels like a month
Of
or
course,
2
of
or
course,
3 or
of
4. So it felt very, really lonely, kind of that environment. Those were the first 3 years. Then we moved back to Munich. And I went to a normal school for 2 years.
Okay. Like a gymnasium or?
Like a normal, it was still elementary school kind of level. But what you might know, or a couple of people know, and that's probably my heaviest criticism of German schools, is after year 5 elementary school, the rest of your life gets decided.
Yes.
You get split into 3 different systems,
Yep.
and some people have criticized it as it's pretty much splitting you into working class, middle class, and upper class.
Yeah.
Because with one, you finish at 16, and you can't really find that many jobs. The medium one is very applicable jobs, more practical jobs, and then the highest one is the only one that actually takes you straight into university. And they split that and decide that at age 10.
At age 10?
Yeah, so if you're a late bloomer at age 10, which I totally was, I was a total dreamer, you kind of don't know that right now, even though you're like playing with your little dolls and you just started to enjoy reading, that is actually deciding the rest of your life. So I kind of missed the train there a little bit because I was a late bloomer, right? I was just, I wanted fairy tales and unicorns and ponies and maybe not study so much.
So which school did you get sent to? Which strand?
Next one, I went into the middle strand. I came into the middle strand.
Realschule?
Realschule, exactly. Okay. That's the middle strand you go into.
Yeah, sorry. Let's just explain to non-Germans. Yeah, so there's Gymnasium.
That's university. You get straight to university. You get all the pleasures in life.
But only if you pass, because if you fail in your Gymnasium, you get kicked out to the Realschule.
Oh yeah, they do that. So if you repeat your year too many times in the highest level, they just kick you down to the level below.
Okay, the Realschule is if you're going to go and do a trade. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much like you're more focused towards traits, practical application, and such. And then we have Hauptschule, which is the base kind of like, okay, you've graduated from school.
Right, so therefore,
not to talk down to people who have graduated from that, you still have chances then with extra classes to make your way up, but you'd have to go to night school and such.
Really?
To make up for that loss that they caused you at age 10.
Wow. So, but also then you'd be, if you got put into the Hauptschule at age 10, there'd be all this development you didn't get by the time you were 17.
It's a bit of that's my biggest criticism of the German system. I hope they've changed it a little bit in the meantime. Anyways, I came into middle.
Okay, Realschule.
Right in the middle, right in there. And it's really funny because some teachers at the time said, yeah, I think your daughter, you should just put her to the lowest level. Like, they were not putting confidence in me. But just skipping a couple of years ahead, I will graduate at the university in an English university with the best level that there is later. So if anyone ever told you, you're not good enough, you're not clever enough, you can't do it, yes, you can. Go prove them all wrong. Because that's what I did.
Well, Cathy Cat just put a slogan on this episode.
Saying, yeah.
This is fantastic.
Yeah, prove them all wrong.
Hang on, now can we hang on?
So
hang on. You've moved on. You're in the dormitory school. You can't see your mum. Can you see your dad in dormitory school?
No.
So you're living alone with a bunch of teachers and other random kids.
Students who are also all very lonely. So that was my first 3 years.
6,
7, 8. Yeah, it was pretty not nice. It was a really
and
terrible
then
time.
they say, all right, we'll put you in middle high school, but when you get to 10, so Realschule. And
Yeah, because I switched from the Black Forest area back to Munich, and
Okay.
Munich's education standard is higher, a little bit and more challenging, so I couldn't kind of keep up with what was expected of me, and I didn't know that would, in theory, decide the rest of my life whether I could go to university or not.
Wowzers.
So,
all right.
the next 2 years then, because they said, your daughter might not make it in middle school, I got put into a very, very high, like, we're gonna teach you how to learn school, which was a girls-only school. We had the next one, and we were taught partially by nuns.
Okay,
So
here are the nuns
now.
Here are your nuns. Awesome.
Here are
okay.
the nuns
the
now.
sisters. All right.
Exactly. So that was for another 2 years. And then after that, because we moved a little bit outside of Munich, I went to a kind of, I don't know how to explain it, like a half-day school where you stay until pretty much just before dinner. So you study there until just before dinner.
Okay.
And that was another 2 years. Oh. And then after that, I went to like normal school again for another 2 years and then graduated on the middle level. Which meant that I was always the new kid in class.
Yes.
Every other year, and I loathe that moment when you're the new kid and everyone's already has those friendships, and I just come in being like the new kid, and let's be honest, it's not like the anime, no one's interested in the new kid, you already have your circle of friends. So that was pretty tough time, but what saved me during all those years when I had no friends and I was getting bullied and all of that, I didn't buff up like Ladybeard did. But I found really good friendships outside of school.
Okay, great, good.
Thanks to Sailor Moon.
Oh, thanks to Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon. When I was about 14, there was a kind of anime manga thing in town, and they had like we want to start a Sailor Moon musical group. Do you want to join us? So I picked that number. It was still like one of those flyer things. I picked that number. I called them. They're like, brilliant, come in.
Great.
And so I started joining a Sailor Moon musical group in Germany, and we were the very first one to start that. And later on, it became a trend, and people started copying the idea because until then, people had done cosplay, but no one's actually done performance in cosplay. So we would use the Sailor Moon musical that existed in Japan and rewatch it and kind of get inspiration from that, write our own songs, do our own songs on stage and such. So that started age 13, 14-ish. And that opened suddenly a whole world to me of having people, like having friends who actually are there for more than,
10 minutes.
for 10 minutes. And having that kind of, we started practicing together. We met every week several times to get better. And we would then go to different conventions all around Germany. So we've been to so many places with that musical group
Right.
performing as
That's
our
beautiful.
characters. And later on, not just Sailor Moon, but also other anime and games. And so it kind of like that was like my step into, oh God, finally I can have friendships and that kind
Right.
of connection that helped me out
Brought
a
together
lot.
by the magic of Sailor Moon.
The magic of Sailor Moon, exactly.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask a rude question. And I'm going to ask it in the most direct and rude way I possibly can. Obviously, don't answer if you don't want to, and we'll cut it out if you want to. This childhood you had, constantly moving around and so forth, and being away from your parents, do you feel it messed you up?
I don't think so. I think in a way, yes, it was probably some of the hardest ones were like being 6 years old and missing your mom so
Can't
much at
even
night.
fathom it.
Yeah, that was tough. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that was really, really tough. And I tried to always make light of it when I mention it in my YouTube Drama Life video that we're all crying ourselves to sleep. It was pretty tough. But at the same time, I always knew my mom loved me. She just couldn't be there for me because she needed to make the money.
Mum didn't think about a career change so that she could be with her daughter? Or Dad didn't think about a career change?
Well, she
No one-
tried later, like after 3 years, she could take me out of that environment, right? So the first 3 years were just the hardest.
It's like you escaped a war zone.
And I called it kids' prison. I called it
Fair
child's
enough.
prison. It
Fair
felt like
enough.
child's prison. The teachers were very strong and like very,
Really?
very strict. There was no love and care there. It was very, very kind of very strict, very German. It's a little bit like in some of those old school movies where people go to dormitories and there's very strict teachers. It kind of felt like that.
It sounds like, it's like a punishment for children in a Roald Dahl book
It
or
was
something.
rough. It was rough. But what hit maybe there's one other reason why I now have the ability to just wherever you drop me in the world, I know I'll somehow
Yeah,
make
you
my way.
figure it out. Okay, so it's made you strong, which
It
is
makes
excellent.
you stronger, yeah. Because in the way, yes, I love my family, but people ask me, "Don't you miss your family? You're living in Japan and such." And I'm like, I love them lots, but I can live without them because I,
Had no
from a very
choice.
early age, learned to live without them.
Well, I'm glad that you did. I'm glad that it's made you stronger and it didn't destroy you. Okay, so now
we
then
end,
what?
we end up almost at the end of school, and then I happened during that time to get the chance to do an exchange to Japan.
Okay.
And I was,
okay.
yeah, this is where Japan is coming in. And I went to that exchange in Japan, and I finally was like, wow, this place is awesome.
All right, this is your jam.
I love this place. And there's dozens and hundreds stories I could tell about these 4 months of exchange. But I think what at the end of the exchange stood there for me is I've gotten all that omotenashi, all that hospitality. And I was wondering, okay, this was pretty awesome. Like, I love everything here. People are super cool. What is it when I'm not a guest? Is this country still this awesome and I'm not a guest? I would like to know what it's like to not be a guest
Different
here.
dynamic, yeah.
So I literally put all my savings together. I was like jobbing part-time
All right.
at a poolside to make enough so I could
poolside.
go onto a work and travel. So I headed back to work and
Right.
travel and thought, okay, this time I'm not 100% a guest, but I'm also not 100% staying there because you can work and travel.
Yep.
Working holiday visa, I can highly recommend it to all of you guys. If your country is in the working holiday scheme, great way to experience Japan for 1 year, travel, study, learn, teach, whatever you want to do. It's a 1 year visa that gives you literally, it's like a mini green card to Japan.
Fish, you can fish if you want
You can
to.
do whatever you want to do, and you don't have to worry about your visa. You don't have to worry about working every day as long as you get enough together. I kind of ate my car during that time there.
Ate your car?
Yeah, I ate my car.
Oh, you ate your car?
I ate my
What?
car. I sold my car in Germany, and my sold car money was one of the things
I
I used
see.
to finance my time over there.
How was that going to do with eating it?
Yeah, because it fed me.
Oh, I see. I
That
understand.
car
'Cause
money
it funded
fed
your
me.
food. Oh, I
But I
understand.
must say, I had a couple of like times when I was literally only having white rice. That was all I could afford. It was a bit rough, and I was sleeping literally on the mattress on the floor. But that year, I just made count. I did a couple of jobs. I also did ALT in that time, so I taught at elementary school. So I also did like airplane interviews. I did like loads and lots of little jobs here and there.
Airplane interviews?
Yeah, like with people, if their German is good enough to actually be a stewardess on a plane, I would interview them in German and such. So I tried everything, literally here, there, everywhere. Made some terrible experiences, make some awful experiences, and I thought, okay, this is less of the hospitality of Japan, but I'm still not really here. Like, this is only a temporary kind of thing. I want to live here for real. I end up at the end of my work and travel. And what a lot of Japanese people said is like, look, you are great. You're fantastic at what you do. I was teaching in schools here at that time.
Nice.
I loved doing that. Lots of singing, dancing, literally the stuff that I used to do.
Good at all those things.
And one Japanese person pulls me inside and says, you should go to university. And I'm like, what? Like, I come from that middle level of university, remember, mind you, that story. So I'm like, I can't actually go directly to university because of the German school system. Because of me, 10 years time, not knowing that I would decide the end of my life later than that, right? So I'm like, why? And he said, look, in Japan, generally everyone in jobs has some sort of degree.
Right.
Majority, if you want to do something, has a degree. You don't have a degree. You came here straight from school. You're not an English native speaker, which again puts you in you hold the wrong passport here. You are not English native. You are German, and you haven't been to university. What makes you better than a Japanese person who learned English, for example?
But hang on, your English was fluent at this point.
It was fluent. It was fluent, but it wasn't fluent on paper. And Japan is a paper culture. You need to have the right documents to prove all of that.
But can I just ask, did you only get fluent in high school when you were at Realschule, or did something else happen to get you English fluent?
I just got it fluent by living in Germany. We have a very strict, and the south of Germany is very strict with the kind of English language. So I could speak it fluently, but it wasn't good enough.
Okay.
So,
all right, wrong pieces of paper.
So they're like, go back to the drawing board, go back to university. And I hated that because I knew I couldn't go directly to university because of the way the German school system was. So I went to kind of a vocational college university. It's a bit difficult to explain. We have different types of universities in Germany. And while I was there with the goal of going to Japan, they offered an exchange for the second year you had to go to a different country. Now, there were literally only 2 slots for the UK, and they were the most highly on-demand slots. Everyone wanted to go to the UK. A couple of people, because it was closer.
Yeah.
You didn't have to go all the way to America. There was all the other slots were in America.
Yeah.
You weren't even on the board, apparently.
Oh, well.
No, not why you weren't an option. Or France.
Fine.
France was, I think, another option. Anyways,
you just drive there.
Yeah, we had a wonderful teacher there. Her name is Lee Love. Thank you. And Lee Love was like, you have to be good. I'm only going to pick the best 2 to send to the UK. And that's my point when I remembered all of those hardworking people I met in Japan. I met so many students in Japan who were literally, they studied all day, then they went to cram school, then they did the violin, and then maybe they like learned something else on the side. And I just see people work so hard that I'm like, okay, this is now my point to step up my game. Okay. And I worked super hard in class. I worked super hard with assignments. I literally went above and beyond. And I remember there was the signboard where they would post who got which role later, who would go on that exchange.
Oh, I see.
And I walked towards that signpost feeling all kinds of emotion.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And there was this one girl who, she was brilliant at everything. She spoke like 5 languages fluently, and she was beautiful. And she was like, she got in. And then once I came closer, suddenly my friends started clapping, and they said, you got in too. And I'm like, oh God, I made it. I can go to the UK. Oh my God. So that happened. So my next year, my second year at university was in Chester, at the University of Chester in the UK, which again was a very transformative year for me because I thought about all those hardworking people I've met in Japan, and I thought, if I want to make it here, I gotta be good. Okay. Like, very good. Okay.
Good at what?
At my subjects, at being there, at like doing my work there, because suddenly, and that's again when the changing schools came in handy, what you learn when you change schools is you necessarily don't need to do the same thing at every type of school. You need to first teach yourself is, what do they want you to see? Do they want you to explain yourself in long essays? Do they want you to just give the right answer and leave it be there? Do they want multiple choice? Like, what do they want? Okay. And so I spend the time of figuring out, what do they want? How do I get a good degree in the UK? How does it work? It's all in English.
And
all
by
of a
the
sudden.
way, I feel like you just went to university. You weren't studying a subject. It was just the whole thing. Just academics.
So the first one, when it was about languages, it makes sense. I was trying to become a translator, interpreter.
Okay, fair
So
enough.
that was the one in
okay,
Germany.
so you did have a mission.
That's why it makes sense to then in the next year go to the UK. So in the UK, it was like German with English literature, kind of my thing that I was steering towards to. And I did that year. And during that year, I did a lot of things. And also did a lot of volunteering for other international students to help them then such. And while I was there during that year, trying really my best to be the best I can be, literally working so much, I thought, okay, hold on a second. What would make me better in Japan than just a German with a German degree? It would be German with an English degree.
Okay.
So I phoned around and tried to figure out, can I stay? I'm just here as an exchange student. I'm supposed to go home after a year.
All right.
Can I stay? No, there's a couple of hurdles there, and the biggest hurdle for me, again coming from a single-raised mom, it was the hurdle of, well, if you want to stay in the UK, you gotta pay, because it ain't free, and there's no money put aside for university expenses because Germany universities are free. So I did transfer.
So you have to pay, sorry to interrupt, you have to pay your tuition
Student
fees.
loans, tuition, yes. We don't have tuition in Germany, but at the time in the UK it was £3,000 of tuition, per year, which I managed to loan. I could take those £3,000 out, but what about living expenses?
What about living expenses, Cathy Cat?
I worked at the hardest time there. I worked 5 jobs.
Wow.
I would get up in the morning, go to a school for like rich girls. It was like a rich girl school.
Okay.
I would go there and prepare in the morning before class starts. So that would start around like 6, 7. I would prepare them for class, and then around 8 they would go into class. Then from 8 I would go into the kitchen. That was my second job that I started then. It was a different company. And then because I said I need more money, so I went into the kitchen and helped and cut vegetables and whatever, made bread and all those kind of things. So cooked there. Then after that I would serve it to the kids. Then I would clean everything up again and put away the tables, and I'd have about 10 minutes before then the next kids would come out of school. So again, back to the first job, but second round of the first job. So kind of the third job, where I would then again help the kids after school to make sure that the kids were like taken care of. You help them with your homework, and once they get picked up by mom and dad, I would go on my bicycle and cycle all the way over to the cinema, where I do the closing on the cinema, which finishes around 12 at night. So I would like dish out popcorn, sell cinema tickets, and then it was still tough to pay the rent with all of that.
I didn't ever realize you were such a nose to the grindstone, laboriously laboriously working powerhouse, Cathy Cat.
I really wanted to make it. Like I thought, like if you're gonna do it, you really gotta put yourself into it. And I wanted to make it. I wanted to get that degree. So beside of that time, I also was studying, right? So I must say then at that point in time, it was tough. That grind was tough, but I guess it's been very strengthening as such. And if you count it up and you realize that's not 5 jobs, I would also teach German at the university as well. And then later on, I would do other jobs, like I would waitress. I would work there was a Japanese center for a time, so I would sell Japanese goods. That worked really well for me. And then I would also work in a bookstore. I worked in retail. I've done literally everything to keep my nose above ground.
You had the immigrant edge.
Yeah,
immigrant edge.
Not really, no.
Well, no, because you're in a foreign country. You got no choice but to just whatever it takes to
you
get
do whatever
the cash
to exactly
figure it out.
Try
That's the
and
edge.
make sure you have enough. Sometimes I couldn't heat my room. I remember that sometimes I didn't have enough food, like all of that. It was a very big grind.
Did you ever have the option of, all right, there's this many dollars in my bank account. I can either pay rent or eat for the next week. Which do I choose?
I always would pay rent because otherwise they would kick me out.
Yeah.
But there would be a lot of times when I didn't have enough food.
You ever go and go to the supermarket and like take food out of the bin or something like that?
No, not that. When I was living with other students though, I sometimes would like literally go like, can I have a little bit of your cornflakes?
Yeah.
Literally, I was hungry. There were times when I was hungry.
The hard-working woman, Cathy Cat. All right, so you live this. Hang on a second now. Aren't you meant to be studying this whole time?
It
What-
was rough.
where's the
That's
studying?
when I was going towards the final part of the year.
Yeah.
I literally had to start taking another loan out because I was like, okay, I can't. Like, I
It's
can't.
impossible.
This is impossible
No.
to do all of this. So at that point in time, I spoke with a couple of people and I got some support to at least keep my nose above the water so
Okay,
I could
good.
focus on studying because otherwise I couldn't. I literally just, I spoke with my stepdad, for example, said, look, I really want to graduate from university. It's not going to be that long. I know, this is not something that people should ask for, but I really want to just make this
please, that's
happen.
okay.
Otherwise, because the last half year is like the grind of
right.
making that degree. So, and I did, again, make that count. Really put my nose down. And also I did a lot of other things as well that gave me extra time to do other extracurricular activities that I also thought would be important to my career in the future.
And just to recap, this whole nightmare situation is just to get a degree so you get taken seriously in Japan.
Yes. But I think sometimes also the journey is also so important, right?
Well, from what
so
I can
for
tell,
me, the time in the UK, I wouldn't want to miss that because I learned so much about what life in the UK is like. I love that kind of easygoing attitude that the British people have. I love so many things there.
really.
So I kind of I'm going to mention that later. It kind of connects also back to my name, the Cathy Cat name and brand later. Just a little bit of a couple of extra things I did there. So I did the bachelor's and then I went straight into doing kind of sneakily 2 masters.
Okay.
Again, I thought, what's better than a German with 1 British degree? It's a German with 2 British degrees. And maybe let's see if I can make 3. So I started one part-time, which was more stretched out. So that was easier for me to do while also jobbing. So I could start jobbing again.
Okay.
And then the other one I did full-time, which was the science fiction one at the University of Liverpool.
I see. Okay.
So I did drama and education part-time in Chester
Okay.
and science fiction full-time at the University of Liverpool, but officially probably shouldn't be doing that because it's crazy.
And then, hang on, there was no third degree?
That's the third one then, because it's 2 masters and 1 bachelor.
Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, I was definitely in the grind.
So far, as far as I could tell, the story of Cathy Cat's life is... It was hard, 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 it was hard. That's from what I've gathered so far.
I guess. But you
Apart from that Sailor Moon musical bit, the whole thing, it was just... It's like... You're like a character in the Old Testament. It's just...
I mean, I had a lot of fun on the side. Like, I listed a couple of things up here before we started of, like, stuff that I did for fun in the UK.
Okay.
I was part of the debating society, so I tried to get foreigners and people from Chester to come together and speak with each other, and we printed, like, Chester Speak Up on, like, our hoodies and stuff, so that was cool. I was in video society, probably an early foreshadowing of me starting to start YouTube.
Okay, there we go. Good.
I did volunteering for the international students. I did poetry open mic nights. So first I would attend them. And then one of the poetry open mic nights was about to finish because my senpai was graduating. And they're like, we'd love to pass it on to you. Do you want to continue our tradition? So I would then once a week, once a month, I don't even know. I think once a month, I would then run a poetry open mic night. To have people come up and read out their poetry and their literature. Nice. Then I would give writing classes once a month at the library, officially for everyone for free.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
people could come and learn like little writing techniques because obviously I love creative writing a lot. And then we started also a literature magazine, and we also re-edited pieces of literature for charity. So there's a lot of things I did for fun as well.
How do you feel about sleep?
Yeah, I love sleep.
Did you do much of that? I get the impression it was minimal in your life.
I got some of it. I got some of it.
It was not prioritized as highly as other activities.
I must say that I think probably the worst time of business or busyness was when I did the end of the Masters of Science Fiction and the Bachelor's, not the other Masters, the drama in education at the same time. There were times when I literally thought, I'm going to go absolutely nuts. I can't. I want to do something fun. And that desire to have something fun is what made me start YouTube.
And what makes someone say, I'll do a master's in science fiction?
I thought everyone who started with literature, they all went on to doing Shakespeare or the Victorian. And that's all nice and posh. But I thought, I want to do something that not everyone has on their degree.
Okay.
And then I heard about that degree in science fiction and I thought, that is interesting. I'm very interested in the utopian, dystopian excursus where we try and see how humans will always try to create a perfect society. We'll never be able to do one because we're flawed. And maybe that connects back to my German heritage because we had two ways of creating societies when Germany was split into East and West. And both societies tried to create a perfect society as such in their own means and ways. But some societies are more perfect than others or less perfect than others. And in some societies, more people, what's the word for it? Some people are more equal than others and such, which then reaches to... But German history, what went on in Germany. But I guess maybe that's why I'm so interested in how we will always strive to create a perfect society, a utopia, but we will never be able to do it. But the thought of striving to create a utopia is utopian as such. I got Ladybeard to be quiet. That is quite a moment. But yes, so when...
That was something. I just need a round of applause. That was something. This whole story so far has been suffering philosophy.
Welcome to my life.
Pretty remarkable to me, man. You're a very smart and hard-working woman. That's what I have ascertained from this story so far. Then what happened?
So we are at the end of the several degrees. And again, don't forget what I said earlier. If people tell you can't do it, just prove them all wrong.
With 5 jobs. And
okay,
no sleep. Hate sleep. You must loathe sleep.
That was rough.
And some nuns. Throw in a nun. A couple of nuns. You'd be good.
A couple of nuns here or there. But when the whole literature thing started dying out was when actually my YouTube thing started. Okay. So I was doing like I said, the science fiction one. And I was like, I'm going to go crazy. I'm working too hard now, like literally brain-wise. And my brain is about to explode. I need to have at least one fun thing a week, which for me became starting to make YouTube videos. So where were we just...
So just for kicks, you started making videos on this new fandangle platform called YouTube.
Yes, and it wasn't like branding yet. There wasn't. I just wanted to have something fun in my life, which became making videos. I started first in cosplay, so I would do like embarrassing things in cosplay. There was like
embarrassing things in cosplay.
Yeah, like random things like try to teach myself the guitar today, or try wear lots of cosplay outfits on top of each other, or one of the most famous ones, try and drop different eggs from the window and see which one survives. But I would theme it all after Neon Genesis Evangelion and the different angels and see which angel would survive if I dropped them out of the window and such. So that was fun. I was like, okay, this is fun. At the same time, I also started drawing a manga. I got that later on published at the university. So they were like little fun things I would include into my life thanks to starting YouTube as well.
This story is very rich in experience.
I think I always was very proud of myself when I did a lot of things at the same time. I like that, like, I want to do more kind of life mentality, life set kind of thing. Carpe diem was always my favorite kind of life mottos, like just seize the day, make the most out of the day kind of thing. Right, but before Ladybeard sneezes...
But now you've got... Hang on. You now have your degrees? You've got your degrees.
I have now finally both of my degrees. First the science fiction one, and then part-time. It took a little bit later. I finished then the drama and education one. But actually, before I actually got that graduation ceremony, I already went to Japan.
Oh, okay, you're back.
I already went to Japan, exactly, and started actually... working there. So I did my dissertation a little bit earlier and handed my dissertation in earlier so I could start working in Japan.
Okay, cool. So you're back in Japan already.
Yes, and
you wasted no time.
Exactly. So straight after university to Japan, because that was my original goal.
Right.
And now we're going to talk about how I made it in Japan in the next episode.
Where do people find you on the internet?
Cathy Cat _TV on Twitch if you want to actually chat and ask me questions about my life story here, because I love chatting with you guys. Or just check out cute pictures and my cute fashion on my Instagram. Again, Cathy Cat _TV. I also do a little bit of Twitter. I am on NHK World Japan Railway Journal and known as well on the Ask Japanese channel. And how I got to work at that channel, I gotta tell you next time. And Ladybeard, how can we find you, snotty nose?
At Ladybeard_Japan
You're
on
so
the internet.
jet-lagged.
I'm so jet lagged. I really do apologize. I came back from South America yesterday, and that's why I'm sneezing everywhere. It's just aeroplane. It's nothing. I'm so sorry. I really do sincerely apologize.
fine.
As we deep dive on your life, I really wish that I were not sneezing the whole way through.
It was beautiful. I loved that moment.
And my group, Babybeard, at Babybeard_Japan, our new songs just started streaming. So please check them out. We have a new record deal with Setsu Soccer Records in the United States. So please check that out. And we're coming very soon to a place near you. You've been enjoying. You've been enjoying.
This was
Cat
our
with Beard
podcast
from
called
Japan.
Cat with Beard from Japan, and we see you for the next episode
Of Cat
with Beard.
with Beard from Japan.
From
Oh,
Japan.
let's take it out with energy. See you next time on Cat with Beard. Goodbye.
Tschüss.